Welcome back, students, for today's session. In this session, we are going to discuss one more very important topic, that is pollinating agents or pollinators. As we already know that, pollination is a process where the pollen grains, when they are released from the anther, it has to go and get deposited on the receptive stigma for the fusion of male and female gametes to occur. So that is pollination. If pollination has to be brought about, especially in the case of cross pollination, so we need the agents of pollination, or what you refer it to as the pollinators are very much essential. So now let us discuss about the different types of pollinating agents or pollinators. Firstly, let me tell you there are two different types of pollinators. One, we have abiotic pollinators, and the second, biotic pollinators. In fact, in majority of the plants, the pollination is brought about by the biotic agents, and there are even few plants where the pollination is brought about by the abiotic pollinators. So, depending on the type of pollinating agent, we can classify them into three types. One is anemophily. This is a type of pollination which is in fact brought about by the pollinating agents, that is wind or air. Secondly, we have hydrophily. So here the pollination is brought about by the pollinators, that is abiotic, again water. Thirdly, we have zoophily. So here the animals of different kind act as the pollinators. Under this, my dear students, let us also discuss types under zoophily. Few of the important ones let us discuss. First, which we are going to discuss, is about chiropterophily. This is pollination which is brought about by bats. Secondly, we have ornithophily. So this is the type of pollination which is brought about by the birds as the pollinators. Then we have malacophily. Here snails and slugs play an important role to bring about the process of pollination. Further, let us also discuss about myrmecophily. So here ants play a significant role. Then finally, let us also discuss about the most important one, in fact, that is entomophily. So this is through insects. So here the bats, birds, snails and slugs, ants, insects act as the pollinating agents. That is, they all come under zoophily. They all come under the pollinators, which we refer generally to as the animals. So this is a short introduction about the pollinating agents or the pollinators. So here, my dear friends, we are going to discuss about the first type of pollinating agent, that is through wind or air. We refer it to as the anemophily. One important point we need to take into consideration here is that wind pollination is a chance factor. Every time the pollen grain after its release from the anther will not go and deposit onto the stigma. Few of the pollen grains which will in fact fly, few of them may in fact fall, few of them may not fall. So anyway, that's why we refer that to as chance factor. To accommodate this loss, to compensate this loss, the wind pollinated flowers have certain adaptations or contrivances in them. So that let us discuss, my dear friends. The first is that of overproduction of pollen grains. So when many numerous number of pollen grains are produced, in fact the chance of them meeting the receptive stigma will increase. So this is the first one. Secondly, we have the pollen grains which are generally, in case of wind pollinated flowers, we can find them as almost they are very light, they will be dry, They will not be moist, they will be dry. Make a point here. Because if they have to fly in the wind or the air, they need to be dry. Then they are generally sticky. Why? Because when they generally get the receptive stigma, immediately they can stick on to that. They are also rough. So rough rough texture of these pollen grains is also necessary for wind pollination. To go with this, let me also add one point. They are also winged. So when they are winged, they can be easily carried by the wind currents, so that the chances of pollination through the wind will be increased. This is the second important adaptation shown by the wind pollinated flowers. Then the third, well exposed stamens. Why this is necessary? Let me tell you, my dear friends. You can see here very clearly that we have the long hanging styles and with male flowers present in panicle. So anyway, so I am talking here about well exposed stamens. So you can find in case of the male flowers, the stamens are very well exposed to the environment, to the the wind current, so that they can be easily carried away. So that is the importance of these well exposed stamens. This can be seen. This plant which I have drawn is for representation to show the wind pollination. This is a maize plant. Maize. So which shows wind pollination. Anyway, then the fourth point we have here is the long style and feathery stigmas. So as I just have shown in the diagram, you can see here the very long styles can be present. Why this is necessary? Because if these styles with their stigmas, when they hang in the air, they also stand more chances of pollen grains, when they in fact fly in the air, they can easily deposit onto them. So there are more chances. So chances will increase. That's what. So this is also one of the adaptation which we can find with respect to the wind pollinated flowers. Then dear friends, we also have flowers which are generally small here. Wind pollinated flowers, they are not only small, they do not in fact have odor. They do not produce honey too. Alright, so this is also very important in fact for us to take into consideration, because if they have odor or honey or even in fact color, they may show pollination by insects or through birds. That's one point. So that also we generally don't find here. No odor, no production of honey, no generally production of colors in the flowers of wind pollination. Then flowers in most of the cases are packed into inflorescence. When there is an inflorescence, as we all know, cluster of flowers would be there. So they produce numerous thousands of pollen grains. So let me tell you children, as I said you in the first point, so it is matching this point anyway. So overproduction of pollen grains. So to explain this, let me give you one example. We have cannabis, where around 5 lakh pollen grains are produced. So just in a cannabis flower, 5 lakh pollen grains are produced. So when the number is such high, the chances of pollination through wind will increase. That's what. So apart from that, we can also say as they have inflorescence, again the chances will definitely it is going to increase. So these are some of the important adaptations which are shown by the wind pollinated flowers. Examples, as I said you, we have maize here. To go with that, other examples let me give you. We have paddy. Then let me also give you grasses. So all these show the wind pollination. So dear students, the next pollinators we are going to discuss here is about hydrophily. So the water pollination, is generally referred to as the hydrophily. So here the important points you need to remember is that, my dear friends, not all the plants show hydrophily. So only few of the plants, let me tell you, we have only 30 genera of the two monocotyledonous plants which show the pollination by water. And there are few plants which are hydrophytes, which are water plants, say like Eichhornia and water lily. Even though they are hydrophytes or water plants, they do not show water pollination. They show the pollination by insect or the wind. Why? Because their flowers are very well exposed to the environment, so they bring about, the other type of pollination, but not the water pollination. So further, my dear friends, we can say that water pollination is also generally a chance factor. It is not exact, but still it is much better when compared to the wind pollination or the pollination by air, that is anemophily. Anyway, so furthermore, my dear friends, here the flowers of water pollinated flowers will be generally odorless, colorless, and also they generally do not produce honey. So anyway, so these are also the points which we need to take into consideration when we talk about hydrophily. Furthermore, if I want to give you a few examples here, let me tell you the best examples here are Vallisneria, which is a fresh, hydrophyte, freshwater hydrophyte. Then we have Hydrilla. So this is also freshwater, surviving plant. Then further we have Ceratophyllum dimersum. This is also freshwater plant. So apart from this, we also have Zostera marina. So which are in fact the plants which survive in salt conditions. These are plant which is present in marine conditions. So these are few examples which we have to take with respect to Hydrilla, my dear friends. Now, when we talk about the adaptations, especially about the hydrophytic plants, so we need to know that they show different types of adaptations. Not all the plants show a similar type, but we can find numerous types of pollination by water. So let us discuss few of the adaptations. So firstly, let us discuss with respect to Vallisneria. So this Vallisneria is a dioecious plant, or in simple sense we can say unisexual plant. So when I say unisexual, the flowers will produce the female flowers separately, and the male flowers are produced separately by another plant. So here let us say this is water. So as I said you, this is completely submerged plant, so it is present below the water level, so it does not generally cannot be found on the surface of water, but the female flowers will reach through its long stalk the surface of water. This is one point. Another plant producing the male flowers, so when the male flowers are produced, they are released onto the surface of water. So these male flowers, through water currents, will come and meet the female flower's stigma. When they come and meet this stigma, in fact, these male flowers' anthers will release the pollen grains, so that the pollen grains, a few of them, will deposit onto the stigma of the female flower, affecting pollination. So this is one type. As we move on, let me tell you a few more types of adaptation which can be shown by the hydrophytes. Second example which we can take into consideration here is Zostera marina. So it's again submerged plant which can be seen in marine waters. So this plant has pollen grains, the male gametophytes, which are elongated, long, and in fact needle-like. So these type of pollen grains, when they come in the contact with the stigma, they roll over the stigma and affect pollination. So this is the type of pollination which is brought about by Zostera marina. It is also hydrophily only. Let me give you one more example, my dear friends. Say, for example, let us consider Ceratophyllum dimersum. So, which is a freshwater, completely submerged plant. So, this plant, let us consider, this is the water. As I said you, they are completely below the water surface, that is submerged. And what happens here is, in fact, very simple. The female flowers will reach the surface of water, especially the stigma of it. So then, the anthers of the flower, will release. In fact, the anther itself gets cut, and these anthers carrying the pollen grains will reach the surface. And again, they are carried by the water currents. When they, in fact, near or reach the stigma, they burst open, releasing the pollen grains, so that few of the pollen grains will deposit onto the stigma of the plant and affect pollination. Like this, we can find different types of pollination which is brought about by the hydrophytes, my dear friends. So next, let us discuss about one more very important type of pollination which is brought about by the animals. Next, we have the pollination which can also occur through animals. So as I said you, that is referred to as zoophily. So here the pollinating agents are generally animals. So let me tell you, my dear friends, that as I said you, we have 5 different types. Before moving on to that, let me tell you, the pollination by animals can be brought about by the beetles, wasps, ants, even in the case of reptiles, few reptiles like even garden lizards, gecko lizards, or arboreal animals, the animals which survive on the plants, primates also, and rodents like we have the snakes and rats. Okay, all these, in fact, animals also bring about, pollination in different plants. But the major of the pollinating animals here we are going to discuss. The firstly we have here is Chiropterophily. So as I said you, the pollination by bats is referred to as Chiropterophily. So here bats are the conspicuous, and also they are conspicuous means generally during nights, in fact the flowers, if they are clearly visible, they can get attracted to that, and they are nocturnal, only active during night. These animals can be active only during the night times, and to get the nectar they visit many different plants. For example, let us say we have Kigelia pinnata, or we have Adansonia or Durio. So all these plants, or Bauhinia megalandra also we have. So these plants generally they show pollination by bats. These flowers are very large and well exposed, that is they are conspicuous. When they are clearly visible, we can use the term conspicuous. And when they are visited by the bats during the night times, so they affect pollination. Especially the most important factor here remains to be discussed is that these flowers secrete the foul odors. The very bad odors are secreted by the flowers of these plants, so that they attract the bats, and bats in turn, to feed the nectar, when they in fact travel long distances, they pollinate. They bring about the process of pollination. So this is we refer to as Chiropterophily. In the same sense, my dear friends, we also have pollination which is brought about by birds. We refer that to as Ornithophily. So here birds get attracted to, firstly let me tell you, they are very conspicuous. That means they are attracted by the clear visibility of the flowers. One point. On the second point, the different size, shape also attracts the birds, especially the color. Let me tell you, red color and orange color attracts the birds very much. So these factors, are important, and in the corolla tube, when the birds, they visit to suck the nectar also, the birds affect the pollination. So these are few factors which we need to remember with respect to ornithophily. Examples we can bring in here many. Few of them are like we have Vitia, Erythrina, and also bombax. So this is about the pollination which is brought about by the birds. We refer generally that to as ornithophily. In the same manner, dear students, we have nextly malacophily. So in this type of pollination which is brought about by snails and slugs. So generally they curl over the plants and or the flowers. When they curl, when they in fact roll over the leaves of the plants or the flowers of the plant, they affect pollination. So as in the case of chrysanthemum plants and leucanthemum plants, we can observe the pollination by the snails and slugs, which is referred to as malacophily. Then further, let me also tell you about the pollination which is brought about by ants. So we generally refer that to as myrmecophily. So here, my dear friends, the important points you need to remember is that pollination by ants is brought about, in case of like plants like we have mango, lychee, or for example we have South American acacia. So here we find that these plants will have ants as predators. That means they protect these plants from other agents, so that when they get protection, at the same time these plants provide the ants with nutrition, especially from their flowers. So when this happens, my dear students, the pollination is affected. So that is why the pollination by ants, generally we find it in mango. Most of you might have seen mango trees where we find ants. So ants bring about pollination. So anyway, so that we refer it to as myrmecophily. And we also have pollination by the final one which we have here is entomophily. That is pollination by insects. So here we have many different examples to quote. The pollination can be brought about by attractiveness as well as the different colors and the scents or the good odors, the smells which are secreted by the flowers of the insect pollinated flowers. Like in case of sunflower, which is having what I can say inflorescence, compact flowers, flowers are very compactly arranged. So there we can find insect pollination. Even in certain cases we can find that the bracts are modified, to perform the role of pollination. Though they attract the insects through their colors. So as in the case of bougainvillea and poinsettia, we can find this type of insect pollination. And generally the corolla tube of these flowers will have the nectar stored in them. So that attracts the insect to pollinate the flowers. So anyway, my dear friends, let me also tell you a few good scents which are produced by flowers. Like for example, we have night jasmine, and also we have night lily, or let us say we have lagoon creeper. So which all produce very good scents or very pleasant odors. So to that the insect get attracted and they in turn help in the process of pollination. So this is also important for us to remember. Now certain plants like for example we have sterculia. So this plant produces flowers, in fact, which produce the bad odors, very, very bad odors. So to this bad odors also, the beetles especially, they get attracted. Next, in the case of Amorphophallus, the flower which is almost 6 feet in height, in fact here the insect lay there, in fact at 6 feet below. During the traveling in the flower, in fact they affect pollination. So this is also very important to understand. Furthermore, the association is present between yucca and moth, yucca plant and moth insect. So what happens is, moth lays eggs in the locule of the ovary of yucca plant. So what happens here, when it lays eggs, so it affects pollination during the process, and the insects after hatching their eggs will come outside during the seeds development. So these are the important points you need to remember, my dear friends, with respect to the different types of zoophily. So here today in this session we have discussed about how the pollination is brought about by the wind, what are their adaptations also we have in fact discussed. The same goes for hydrophily as well as zoophily. So please go through the class completely again and note down the important points so that you will be well thorough with the topic. Keep updated for further videos. Thank you very much.